Hey everybody, I am back again today for another fall seed starting video, but first I really want to show you something that is just so beautiful. I'm going to be doing a garden tour really soon just because I didn't do one in July and July is almost over with, but my little garden bed over here is just looking so beautiful, and even though I'm going to include it in the tour, I want to show it to you right now before we get started with all of our seed starting. Let's go. My favorite part is coming out here in the morning to check on this bed and just looking in through the rows like this of corn. And this is kind of a really sentimental site for me because I grew up in the Midwest running through the fields of corn that were behind our house, and it is just like that, only in the Midwest there weren't pumpkins and beans growing in between. I just love hearing the rustle of all of the leaves. It is just very nostalgic to me. Let's take a little look at these beans. I looked in here earlier this morning and I saw that there were a lot of blooms and a lot of beans setting, so that is a good sign. But let me show you one more thing. Just look at those little bean vines crawling up the sunflowers. So cute. All right, we had our little field trip. Let's go back to the table and sit down and get to work. All right, thank you all for humoring me and going over with me to admire my corn. I just felt like other people needed to see it so that we could appreciate its beauty together, and I look forward to sharing it with you on my next garden tour. So let's get right into it. The first variety that I want to talk about is lettuce, and I think that that is a really important and timely topic based upon what is being reported in the news right now. I think we can all agree that being able to grow some of our own lettuce and avoid a super fun bout of explosive diarrhea is top priority, or at least pretty high on the list. There are many other things I would rather do than have to deal with that. I never expected that I would be saying the word diarrhea or the phrase explosive diarrhea on a gardening video, but here we are in 2026. So let's get into this lettuce thing because there are so many different varieties of lettuce and I'm really excited to share them with you. So first thing is, if you've got a bunch of lettuce packets lying around, check the date on the back. The seed viability for lettuce is about 5 years. So if yours are older than that, then definitely plant extra. I've got quite a few that are older and I'm going to be planting extra. I think what I'll do this year is start with the oldest ones and then work my way through, just so that I can try to use them up as quickly as I can, and then I will be able to buy more lettuce packets, but not very soon. As I was looking through mine and trying to figure out which varieties I wanted to share with you and which ones were my favorite, I noticed that I have a problem with buying too many lettuce packets, and so I think there are a few different things that are like that for me in the garden. I have a lot of tomato varieties and I've got a lot of bean varieties too, and lettuce is one of those things because there are so many different styles and colors and textures that it is just really hard to resist when I'm seed shopping to not buy more lettuce. But this year I will not be buying more. I'm just going to skip over question number 1 that I usually ask, and that is, do you like it? Because most people like lettuce in some form or another. Even if you don't like the bitter lettuce or romaine lettuce or what have you, even iceberg lettuce, that is on the list too, believe it or not. It's not as nutritious, but at least it is some fiber and some water. So we're going to skip on to question number 2, and that is it better than store-bought? Is it worth growing in your garden? And I want to scream a resounding yes, because lettuce is so much better when you grow it at home. And I love lettuce because it is a great vegetable for anybody to grow. I have grown it in a flower pot. I've actually grown it in a tray next to a window. I have grown it in my raised beds and in my in-ground beds. It takes very little space. It has a very short rooting system, so you can pretty much grow lettuce anywhere. And the great part about lettuce is that it doesn't require as much sunlight as a lot of other varieties do in the garden, so it will tolerate some shade. I would say anywhere from 4 to 6 hours of direct direct sunlight is really what it needs. So if you can give it that, then I think that you can grow lettuce pretty much anywhere. If you've got an area maybe on a patio or out in your garden that receives morning sun and maybe late morning sun, that is much better than getting the hot afternoon and evening sun. So keep that in mind when you are scouting out a spot. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the cost of lettuce. So I was looking around at the different options for lettuce, and it is wildly different from store to store and from what variety of lettuce you're going to purchase. You could go to a Walmart or to a regular grocery store and you could get a head of iceberg lettuce for 99 cents. Or you could go get the little packs of artisanal lettuce that are organic, and that would probably cost you about $5. But on average, it's about $3 to $5 for an organic head of lettuce. Now, I say that with a little bit of caution because you could buy heads of lettuce, you can buy bagged lettuce, you can buy boxed lettuce. So it's a lot of variability in the price of lettuce. But when you look at one of these packets, let's see, this one is really cute. I'm just going to show it to you right now. This is the De Russi, and it is a green and purple speckled lettuce from Baker Creek. And this was $3, and it has about 200 seeds in it. So buying a head of lettuce in the store is more expensive than buying 200 seeds with 200 potential lettuce plants for $3. So that being said, I do think that it will save you money to grow your own lettuce if you've got the space for it. It takes little water, little space, and little effort. So you couldn't get much easier than that. I think that fresh lettuce harvested from the garden is so much better than lettuce that you purchase at the store. Going out into the garden and just getting enough leaves for a bowl of salad or cutting an entire head of lettuce to take inside will give you crisp, fresh, sweet, zippy lettuce that is so much better in flavor than a store-bought head of lettuce or a box of lettuce that's been just sitting around for several days. If you grow lettuce from seed, the sky is the limit when it comes to variety. You can grow green, you can grow red, you can grow a speckled that has both colors in it. You can grow lettuce that is a romaine style, so it's a tall head of lettuce. You can grow an iceberg type of lettuce, which is a round ball like a cabbage. You can grow loose leaf lettuce that you can harvest one leaf at a time, and pretty much anything in between. So there are so many different possibilities, and I think a lettuce for every person and every palate and every color preference. And you don't have to worry about contamination. I do not have to worry about getting sick from my lettuce because of E. coli or because of a parasite or what have you. It is fresh, and I know exactly where it came from and how it was grown. And so I think it just makes me feel really happy to be able to plant lettuce in my garden, to be able to eat to my heart's content. I do love a good salad. When it comes to how many heads of lettuce you should be growing per person or how many plants you should be planting per person, that really depends. That's something that you're going to have to work out for yourself. In my house, I will eat a couple of salads a day when I know that it's lettuce season, and TJ will do the same, which means that's possibly 4 bowls of lettuce every day. So we go through a ton of lettuce, much more than would be recommended, I'm sure, on some of these websites. Just like with the broccoli and the cauliflower, I was saying yesterday that I just did not agree with the number of plants per person for those varieties, and it's really the same with lettuce. If you eat a lot of salad, then you're probably going to want to eat more than your average person and more than those recommendations. So you should just think about if a head of lettuce will provide you with a bowl of salad, depending on how big it is, and how many salads do you eat a day, how many salads do you eat a week, and then you can kind of go from there. And I think that that will help you make up your mind as far as how many plants per person you should plant. Of course, with lettuce, we really don't need to worry about preserving it or planting extra so that we can save it or put it back for later in the season, because you can't really preserve lettuce. So you don't need to worry about that. It's all about fresh eating. So I just planted one of my favorites, and I'll go ahead and I'll share it now. It's the Marvel of 4 Seasons. This is a really nice red lettuce, and I've had such great luck with it. This one is an heirloom from the 1800s, it says on the back. It's a French heirloom, and it's really good. It does well in the cold, and I've had fairly good luck with it even into the spring a bit. It tends to bolt a little slower than some of the other varieties, and it tends to get bitter less quickly than some of the other varieties. So that's the one that I put in this tray. And then in this tray, I'm doing all of this flashy butter gem. Just look how beautiful that is, y'all. That's a butter lettuce. And I like to go in and sneak and harvest from the outside leaves first. That way I can get multiple harvests off of little butter head lettuces or bib lettuces. So this one's really nice too. And I like to combine red and green and tall and short and just have a good old time. When you're planting your lettuce, you want it to be about 6 to 8 inches apart. I usually will air for 6 inches. I think that's just fine. And then as far as your row spacing goes, you want it to be about 12 inches apart. That is the recommendation from a lot of seed companies. I tend to go a little bit closer than that just because I really like being able to prevent the weeds and all of that by having them kind of shoulder to shoulder. I have not had any problems with powdery mildew or anything like that with planting them a bit closer. So instead of the 12 inches, I will usually do more like 8 to 10, and that seems to do really, really well. So if you're in a smaller space, don't be afraid to kind of play around with the amount of spacing that you have between your plants. Just keep in mind though that those root systems down below are going to need to access enough soil and enough nutrition and moisture without fighting and competing with one another. So you don't want to do it too close, but I would say you could get away with something less than 12 inches for sure. For lettuces, you're looking at a pretty wide difference between varieties on days to maturity. It could be anywhere from 40 to 80 depending on the type of lettuce that you're using. I actually have one in here. Let me see if I can find it. It has a really short growing season. Here it is. This one I really like to put in my raised beds because it's super small. It's the Tom Thumb butterhead lettuce from Territorial Seeds, and the days to maturity on that are 35 to 50. So it really depends on if you want to harvest it a little bit smaller or give it another week and a half or two so that it can be a little bit bigger. But that Tom Thumb, that's really nice. It is a butterhead. It's the size of a baseball, and it is a dark green color. So I really like that one. And since we're just talking about lettuce varieties, let me tell you about the other one I get from Territorial. There's actually 3. So the other one is Pomegranate Crunch. And the Territorial just puts like a generic picture on the front of their seed packet. So I really don't need to show it to you because they all look the same. But it's Pomegranate Crunch, and it's a romaine style. That's 75 days. I really like that one, as well as their Little Gem. And their Little Gem is 75 days to maturity, and it's a miniature green romaine. So what I really like to do is mix the Pomegranate Crunch, which is a red romaine, with the Little Gem, which is a green romaine, and they just look like these beautiful little alternating colors of baby romaine lettuces. It is so adorable. So definitely check those out. I think those are really good, and I've grown them every year for like 4 years, I think. So I like them a lot, and I will probably always have those on the list, as well as this Marvel of 4 Seasons. I'll show it to you again. The Marvel of 4 Seasons. Really nice. And then this flashy butter gem was just absolutely gorgeous last year. So beautiful. I am hiding underneath my little pistache tree because it is so hot. It was 90 degrees by 9 a.m. here, and now it's about 1:30 and it is 104, and it is so stinking hot. I am really looking forward to the thunderstorms that they are forecasting for tonight and the next few days, and I'm hoping that we get the rain. We've gotten a really good monsoon season so far this year, and I so hope that it continues for a little while longer. I'm going to show you a few of my favorites now really quickly, and it was really hard to narrow them down, so I've got two other red varieties. So I showed you the Marvel of Four Seasons, which is red, and this one is the Red Sails, and that one is really pretty too. I think that the Red Sails is pretty tolerant, and it's got these beautiful ruffly burgundy red leaves, and it's just so pretty. It forms just a very loose head, so I don't think that it could be considered a leaf lettuce, although it does say it's a leaf lettuce on the pack. So but I do find that it starts to form just a little bit of a loose head, and it's really pretty. Very easy to go do the cut and come again method on this one when you harvest it, and that is just harvesting the leaves from the outside. That way you can come back the next time and then harvest the next set of leaves, and you just get many harvests off the same plant, so you get a lot more bang for your buck. So I really love that one. That's the Red Sails, and just like always, I will put all of the varieties I'm talking about in the description box below for you, as well as links to the other seed starting videos in this series, so you can check that out. The next one is called the Brentwood. I actually tore the top off of this, but that's what that one looks like. It is really pretty. I've had really good luck with this one, as well as I'm going to show you at the same time this Truckus lettuce. And this Truckus lettuce is a mini romaine. We'll talk about those at the same time. I think that you can tell that I really like red lettuce. I just think it's so beautiful. And I do grow some of the speckled red and green, and some of the green too, because I like how it looks in the bowl. But if I had to choose one color of lettuce, it would definitely be the red, because it's just gorgeous. But I have had really good luck with the Truckus lettuce and this Brentwood lettuce too, for the cold and the heat. Now, I'm not growing this right now in the middle of July. That would definitely be asking too much of it, but it will persist a little bit longer in the spring once it starts to warm up, and not get bitter or bolt as quickly as some of the other varieties. And it's also done really well in the cold too. I've gotten a few nights where we've had heavy frosts, and I was able to cover this, and although it was a bit frosty, when I lifted the cover in the morning, it turned out just fine, and it recovered, and it produced for several more weeks after that. So really like that. That was the Brentwood and the Truckus lettuce. And then I have to show you this other one, which is so cute. It's a lot like the flashy butter gem that I showed you earlier that I planted in this tray, but this one is so cute. It's the DeRusi lettuce, and this one is 60 days. It says slow to bolt and tolerates fairly cold weather well. So it's really beautiful lettuce. I love that one too. And then there's only a couple more, so bear with me. This one is a green lettuce, and it's Landis, and look how cute that one is. It says on the back, it's an incredibly cold, hardy, classic Pennsylvania Dutch winter lettuce. It was a descendant of the now extinct 1700s variety called white tennis ball, and it was from Roughwood Seed Collection, one of the most frost-resistant lettuces known. And I guess that's why they call it Landis winter lettuce. And I got this one for free. I may not actually have tried that had they not sent it for free. I think Baker Creek is really good about that. I have tried so many varieties that I probably wouldn't have ordinarily because they sent me free seeds, and free is good, right? If you can't make up your mind on what lettuce you want, just like with kale, there are mixtures, so you can choose your own adventure here, or you can just do a mixture. I really like this one from Baker Creek. It's an heirloom cutting mixed lettuce, and they just put in all of their, bright and beautiful and interesting varieties. And then this one is from Botanical Interest, and it's their farmer's market blend. So that's one of the basic mesclun mixes. So that one's really nice too. I've grown both of these, and they're really good. And if you can't make up your mind, or if you want to just have a mix of things and just throw some seeds in real quick, then that is a great idea for doing. You don't want to plant all of your lettuce at once, because you would not be able to eat it all before it went off or went bad or bolted or whatever. So you want to try to spread it out. And since lettuce takes such little time to germinate and to grow and to reach maturity, you really can spread out the harvest pretty well and quickly plant more seeds. What I like to do to keep the harvest going consistently is take my little seedling tray of lettuce plants out. I will plant them and then I'll immediately clean it and fill it back up with potting soil and put it on my light rack inside where I do all of my seedlings. And then in a couple of weeks I will have an alarm set on my phone or put it on my calendar to plant more lettuce seeds. And that way I don't have to worry about, oh great, I have to go find a tray and clean it and put the soil in and all of that. While I'm still out in the garden and dirty and digging around in the dirt, I will just clean and fill that tray. And then when my little calendar alerts me that it's time to start lettuce seeds again, I've got it all ready to go, and all I have to do is spend a couple of minutes just throwing some lettuce seeds into that seedling tray. So that's what I like to do, just to save time and to kind of combat my laziness and my tendency for disorganization. My calendar on my phone has all kinds of stuff on there because I tend to forget things or get distracted. So it's really, really helpful. But if you try that and you do it every 2 to 3 weeks, you can plant another tray of lettuce or however much you need. So once I kind of get going, I will do usually 2 trays at one time, just because that tends to fulfill all of our needs. So that depends on the size of your family, of course, and your eating habits, but that's just a little tip. And then when it comes to extending the season for your lettuce, what you want to do is you can either, if it's getting warm, you can put a shade cloth over your lettuce, and that will help lower the temperature underneath the shade cloth by about 10 degrees. That's what I've found. And so if it is getting to be 80 degrees and you can knock it back to 70, you're going to get another couple weeks out of your lettuce plants. If you are worried about the cold and you think that maybe you're growing a variety that really isn't very good for the cold, then you could always put a frost cover or a row cover over it, like a heavier winter weight one. They come in different weights. And so the winter ones I find are nice and thick, and they will do really well for blocking frost. So you can get a little bit more out of that. Now, if we lived in a cold climate, I would say, oh, we'll just use a cold frame. But I have a cold frame, and to be honest with you, I have barely ever used it because it just doesn't get that cold. So it depends on where you live, of course. And if you need to use a cold frame, then by all means do it. You can also interplant. And so interplanting is when, I got some seeds stuck in the bottom of this. There we go. Interplanting is where you will start a quick growing seed or seedling in between plants that have a much longer time to maturity. So say you are planting broccoli in your garden bed and you've got space in between each plant because you have them spaced out between 12 and 18 inches. Well, that 12 and 18 inches is prime growing space while that broccoli seedling is really small. It's not going to shade out its neighbor. So you could get a lettuce seedling or a lettuce seed in and out of there in as little as 3 or 4 weeks. And by the time the broccoli plant is getting big enough to need the space or to be shading the lettuce plant that's growing next to it, that lettuce will already be harvested. So that's another really good trick that you can use. So try that. You could do shade cloth, row covers, succession planting, or interplanting. And that is a really nice trick for all the seasons, being able to interplant and share the space between slow and fast growing varieties. All right, the next variety is radicchio. And radicchio is one of those varieties that I get questions about a lot. It seems to be one that gives people trouble with growing. I had a lot of trouble with growing it too early on. I found that if it actually formed a head, it would rot from the bottom or from the inside before I could harvest it, which was so disappointing. I would have these beautiful little baby radicchios, and I would think I was getting close to being able to harvest it, only to find that it started to just wilt and deflate and rot. I found when I was researching the problem for myself that they're pretty sensitive to moisture. So if you've got your soil nice and moist and that radicchio head is resting right on top of the soil, it is in contact with that wet soil and it tends to rot that way. I also found that the roly-polies or pill bugs, whatever you want to call them, they really like to get up in there when there's a plant or leaves on the ground like that and there's a lot of shade between the plants. They will get in there and they will eat the radicchio too. So what I do is two things. When I plant my radicchio seedling, I will plant it a little bit up above the soil. So when you're planting other things, you kind of stick the plant in the hole and then you kind of push the soil down nice and firm, and then you kind of gather the soil up all around it. With radicchio, you want to plant it a little proud of the soil. So you might think, oh, well, the root base is just under the soil. Well, do it, try it, and trust me, it will strengthen up, it'll hold up its little head, and it'll be up above the soil enough that it doesn't rot. That's also going to help prevent the roly-polies from having easy access to it if it's just laying there right on the soil, just waiting to be eaten by them. You can also sprinkle around an organic treatment called Sluggo Plus. You want to make sure you get the plus version of that because that is for roly-polies too, and it comes in a pelleted form, so it's not going to hurt your other pollinators, but they love it. They munch it down and then they go away. So those are two things that I've done for radicchio. I will also cover it with shade cloth if I feel like it's getting a little too warm and it's not quite finished yet. You could also use a row cover if you want to, just to keep the direct sun off of it. It likes to have full sun, but I find that full sun elsewhere is not full sun in Arizona. Our sun is so intense and so hot that it just burns things so easily. So try those things and see if that helps with the radicchio. So let's talk about growing radicchio. I've got my little variety right here. And growing radicchio, first of all, you need to look at your seeds and you need to see if your seeds are going to be viable or not. So your seeds are viable for up to 4 years. If you find that you've got seeds that are older than that, plant extra, order more seeds, do what you need to do. Y'all, I just had a breakthrough. I used all of my radicchio seeds, and I was actually just looking at radicchio seeds on some of the seed company websites today, just looking at the prices and looking at the different varieties available. They have so many varieties that are so much prettier and so much more interesting than this one. I mean, this is pretty, definitely, but it's just the normal Italian heirloom variety. But this is pretty much like the one you get in the store. And I wanted so badly to order more seeds, and I thought, no, I can't. I allowed myself to order that packet of edamame, but no more besides that. But now I have a license to go order some radicchio seeds, y'all. So that is exciting. If we go through our line of questioning, do you even like it? If you don't know, you should definitely go try it. Either buy it in your produce section. Some bagged salads will have radicchio in it. It's the kind of thicker, cabbagey looking red and white leaves, but may not be a good idea to buy bagged salads right now. I don't know. That's up to you. But you could try buying a head of radicchio. It'll usually look like a little miniature red and white cabbage. It's really pretty. It's very crisp and it is on the bitter side. So if you don't enjoy bitter foods, then you may not enjoy radicchio. I like it. I think it's really good, especially if you pair it with some acid and something maybe sweet. Like I think pears are really good with it, and a light white wine vinegar is really good, but people sometimes will sear it, but generally they'll use it for salads and things like that. I just saw some just last weekend at Whole Foods, and I was so excited to find it, and I reached to go grab some, and I saw that they were all just totally mushy and not good, so I wasn't able to buy any. I do think it's worthwhile to grow. I think that it is better than store-bought because the flavor is so much better. You're guaranteed not to find a disappointing and mushy head of radicchio in the produce department like I did. That was so sad. And also there are just so many different sizes and colors and shapes and flavors. It is amazing. I was looking up, like I said, some radicchio varieties today before I did this video, and I took a screen recording of all of the different varieties that are offered by Johnny's Seed Company that I'm going to play right now, and I was so amazed at just how many colors and how many varieties there were. So I am definitely going to go choose some of those seeds when I replenish my seed stock of radicchio. Some of it is endive and some of it I think is radicchio, but the radicchio is usually rounder, although I did see there were a couple varieties that were a little bit more elongated. So that was pretty cool to see. Is it cheaper to grow radicchio? Yes, it is. I saw packs of radicchio seeds on Baker Creek's website. They were cheaper than Johnny's, just so you know, in full disclosure, and they were about $3 per pack, and you get about 200 seeds. So when I looked at grocery store prices, you are looking anywhere between $3 and $5 a pound for radicchio. And just like with the fennel that we were talking about yesterday, a head of radicchio is not going to weigh a pound. It might weigh a quarter of a pound. It's pretty small. So a head of radicchio is not going to cost you $4 or $5. But when you think about a packet of seeds giving you 200 heads of radicchio for $3, that is quite a bit of savings. If you decide to start seeds for radicchio, just know that you can start them on August 1st, just like all of these other varieties we've been talking about all week. And just for reference, today is July 24th. I usually film the videos a day ahead, and I planned these videos out so that you could go ahead and purchase your seeds and get everything ready to go for August 1st. So that's really when you should be planting them. I'm just doing them a little bit early because I'm making these videos. If you don't want to sow an entire row of radicchio because you think that you're not going to be able to use it, you can succession plant it every 2 to 3 weeks, and then you can do, you know, a couple plants at a time, and then when you set those out, then start new seeds or something like that. Similarly to lettuce, when you plant your radicchio seedlings out in your garden, you want to space them about 8 to 10 inches apart. That's in between plants, and then it's recommended that you space them about 12 to 18 inches. I would go for 12 because, you know me, I always like to squeeze as many plants as I can into my garden, and my soil is really fertile. I really keep up on my amendments. So if you've got really good healthy soil that can provide enough nutrition to your plants, then don't be afraid to go just a bit closer than recommended and just see what happens. You can succession sow radicchio about every 3 weeks. So if you're like, well, I might use, you know, like a couple a month or something, then just start a couple of new seeds, maybe 3 seeds, so you have an extra one in case something happens every 3 weeks, and then you'll have radicchio all through the cool season. The days to maturity is wildly different, and I saw some that were 60 days to maturity, and I saw some that were 120 days to maturity. So that is a lot different. So just check your seed packet for your variety and see what that one says, and then you can kind of go from there. Definitely start the ones with longer amount of time to maturity right away so that you can make sure you get a harvest from those. Radicchio is cold hardy down to about 20-25 degrees Fahrenheit, so that should be fine for those of you who are in the Southwest. You can put a frost cover or row cover on it during the wintertime if you want to, just to try to protect it if you know there are going to be freezing temperatures coming up. But generally, I have not had to protect my radicchio from the frost. It seems to do just fine where I am, and I'm a bit south of Tucson, and I am in zone 8B. Hopefully that helps clear things up. I hope you go out and find some really beautiful varieties of both lettuce and radicchio, and that you can grow your own salad greens and avoid the scourge that's going around right now, because nobody got time for that, that's for sure. I'm Kara from So Arizona. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back next week with a few more fall seed varieties that you need to get going with right now.